This charming seaside town of clear water sat near the sea, kissing every dawn with golden light in the air, hung with the serenity of life slow and predictable. This town is nestled along the rough coastline where a dark secret lies hidden beneath the waves. A difference of sisters, Lina and Erisa, lived in clear water. They had always been drawn to the sea. They spent their time exploring the rocky shore, never suspecting the danger that lurked just beyond the waves. The townsfolk often whispered about their extraordinary beauty, a display of their mixed ancestry, and the eerie ability each held to captivate strangers. Lina, the elder, has flowing black hair and eyes that shift from sapphire to emerald with the change of the tide. She was a puzzle no man could solve. Erisa has sun-kissed skin and hair that shimmered like the evening sea. She possessed a warmth that lured all within her orbit. Most were content with the sisters' dainty presence as an adornment to the town, but many did not realize that their beauty harbored a curse. Perhaps it was a prophecy, for it was written in the records of Clearwater that should there be two as attractive as the mythic sirens, their lives would be the offering to break the enchantment that blanketed the town with peace and success. The mysterious lines in the ancient tome were often dismissed as a moral tale. Still, the sea-surviving travelers who crossed upon the town whispered grimly of dark magic that lay upon it, one that could only be subsided by a great sacrifice. In the moral tale, a ship was said to bring riches to the town's shores. One fateful midsummer's night, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the people were unaware of the velvety danger that awaited them. It was the eve of a festival that harmonized with the song of the ocean and the dance of bonfire lights. The air began to thicken with the salty scent of the ocean. It carried a sweet, rhythmic melody toward clear water. As the first light of the moon painted the sky in its foggy hues, their father's salty prediction, "This sea gives, this sea takes," echoed through their minds. His absence, swallowed by the churning tides, would always remain a gaping trap in their existence. Lina and Erisa found themselves captured by a melody so awe-inspiring it seemed to call to their very souls. It was a tune foreign to their ears, one that seeped past the sensible feeling of their hearts, transmitting an unexplainable longing. The sisters exchanged a glance, their silent communication teeming with unspoken questions. Their hands paused as their nets were half let out, as if the very progression of time had been stilled by the enchanting music. They were drawn by the siren call from across the dark waves and under a moon that seemed to pulse with delicate light. At the edge of their vision, three beautiful women emerged from the water's hold. The sirens' voices were as hauntingly beautiful as their appearance. They were singing a melody that seemed to echo from the very core of the earth. It was a sound so delicate and otherworldly. Three voices that were conjoined by the waves of the sea. The three women were known as the Siren Sisters. They have claimed many lives over the centuries by luring unsuspected sailors and townfolk to their deaths with their enchanting music. Each siren gave a facial expression that indicated an eerie loveliness. Their eyes like twinklets that held secrets of sunken cities and lovesick sailors. They twisted an intoxicating melody, a calling that promised false delights. Their voices were more attractive than the sisters' own, twisted through the air. Their song cast a spell that the townsfolk would remember much too late. Lina's fingers searched to obtain a thread of rationality that unraveled with every note of the mysterious songs, while Erisa's soul seemed to unravel, each note pulling a thread of her life force out to sea. The sisters moved towards the water in a state of trance. As Lina and Erisa drew closer, they too fell under the spell of the sirens. They walked as if pulled by invisible threads. Their hearts and spirits were eager for communion with the sea nymphs who called them. Their minds were clouded and their walls weakened. "Erisa, what is this?" I can't help myself," Lina whispered, a tremor in her voice betraying the calm that her features still portrayed. As the night held on, the Siren sisters' song grew louder and more constant. The Siren song was more than just delightful, it was an uncontrollable longing. It was a demand that had to be fully satisfied. The sisters were not the only ones. Couples were holding on to each other, and children who should have never ventured near the waters. Their parents were watchful, but captured in a trance of their own. The whole of Clearwater stirred as if caught within a captivating current. They were oblivious to the dangers appearing behind the enchanting symphony. The spell was already cast, twisted like seaweed by the sirens' harmonies. It began seeping into the hearts of the unsuspecting. The sisters' feet moved not of their own choice, moving toward the serenading spirits. Their thoughts were twisted with the promise of the marine treasures. Erisa could barely find her voice over the soothing noise that was invading our every sense. "It's the legend, Lina. It had to have been the prophecy many talked about. We are those two, the ones who wake the sirens from their deep slumber." Her terror at the words she had spoken was barely hidden by her trembling smile, the one that signaled hope even in the face of the danger at hand. Recovering faith from the screeching of wonder that erupted within them, Erisa reached for her sister's hand. Their fingers tangled in a desperate, unspoken vow of strength and agreement before they surrendered to the river's black hold. The townsfolk moved ever closer to the edge of the water. They were lost in the trance induced by the sirens. No visual horror could deter the sisters from following the sirens. The sounds of the sea transformed into a soothing lullaby against the rough shore, erasing the physical existence of the threats their father wrote in tales of old. The girls stumbled upon an enchanted set, unaware of how they even got there. They stepped onto the isle, their spirits as enchanting as their every step in the once forgotten soil. There stood the three sirens, their beauty now magnified under the inspected gaze of the moon. Lina and Arissa approached them, unaware of the deadly trap they were walking into. The girls found themselves inevitably drawn deeper into their web of enchantment. "Welcome, daughters of Clearwater, to our humble family." Their voices linked up, rattling the air in a calling of song. "We hold within our hearts the dreams lost at sea, the promises that the tats could not keep. We offer you comfort, rest, a calming of the heart's storm. Only stay and hear our stories." The creature to the right bent with a voice that danced like sparkles on the water's surface. The Siam's charming tune, nor could the screams caution them from the visible darkness beneath the waves. By the water's edge, the waves stirred with unexpected passion. The Siam's isle, decorated with the thin yet vibrant growth that dared to cling to its rocks, lay richness and mystery beneath the touch of the midnight moon. The motion was hinting at the wrath hidden within the Siam's realm, a forewarning of the loud noise said to be unleashed should the pact not be fulfilled. Eris's initial determined role as the steady guardian collapsed like a wave retreating from the shore. Caught in the Siam's delicate trap, she felt her burden evaporating into the salty current of air that held the isle. Lina, meanwhile, her every scribbled daydream now taking form in the enchantress who flowed before her. She could not push back the rapidly growing adoration for the Snootfin shrine. To her, the Siam's home was the prophet of a grander story, one where grief could be twisted into streams of laughter and pain. It could even be made into paintings of sympathy. The appearing conflict of individual desires versus limitless devotion to the shared history cut down heavily. Each of their heartbeats laced with the silent pulsing call of the sirens. Both sisters walked unsturdily on the bridge between holiness and the consumed sailor's chant. The townsfolk, once a community unified by bonds solid as the rocks upon which their home stood, now slowly unraveled. Their fates meeting at the doorstep of the roofless sea. The once gentle waves had begun to stir violently. It was resisting the moon's pull as the legends of old prophesied. Some part of Lirina was worried about the people about to lose their lives, another part was consumed with a call to the sea. All the while, a third part of her whispered it was only right. The beauty had always alarmed the townsfolk and whispered doubts into their hearts. Under the sharp gaze of the judgmental stars, it was as if the universe now confirmed their fears. As the first rays of dawn broke over the horizon, the Siam sisters' powers began to disappear. Sanjay was the first to fight free of the enchanting ties. He was the lighthouse keeper. He was holding his wife, Christiana's hand. She tugged at his hand, feeling worthless, her eyes wild with a mixture of the spell's persistence and heart-straining fear. "Sanjay, no, don't leave me," she pleaded as her husband tore away from the Siam song and into the stern hold of realization. He staggered towards the bonfire, his hands searching for the neighboring boat. He was in search of anything to cut off the magic that coiled around his heart. Sanjay grabbed an oar and raised it high above his head, ready to strike the bonfire, cutting off the keep of the Siam's enchantment. Just then the one spark of his hesitation flashed into a full-blown flame of lasting approval for his wife as he knocked over the log piles, desperately avoiding his wife's hopeless eyes. "The Black Pearl, it's the only way," Sanjay cried, and with further thought released the rope that tied the boat to the pier. The boat, decorated with golden elvish hieroglyphics crafted for fortune, had drifted away from the frantic shore. Its sails catching the wind with wild hands. It swayed lazily at first before the current of revolution yanked it away from the harbor. It extended the briefest illusion of victory before the ship naturally found its path interrupted by the sudden increase of the distrustful tides. The Black Pearl had sliced its way through the rolling waves of the Aegean Sea. The Black Pearl represented not just a means of support, but also the continuation of a family legacy they were determined to preserve. In a state of madness, the townsfolk were witness to the realignment of destinies as the Black Pearl coped with the depths of the sea. It was alive and left them unknowable to their mortal thoughts. A mismatch that promised devastating consequences for those on shore. The crowds desperately became closer while fear connected them. In the end, it was Sanjay of all people who attempted to wish the ship for failure. It was his passionate hope that tied excessively to the boat as he danced upon the shore and gave life to a reminder of salvation that no prophecy could predict. The sisters also broke free and realized they were back at the sea edge. They were left with the horrifying reality of what they had almost done. How could they break the Siren sisters' hold on the townsfolk of Clearwater before it was too late? Erisa, led by the heart-straining clarity that grew through her. She had realized what they must do. Please, Lirna, don't you feel it? The belonging we've longed for. She begged. We must destroy the light in the lighthouse. Sanjay and the girls had raced to the lighthouse where a flickering light attracted the ship that promised toward unavoidable destruction. Their feet barely touched the wooden stairs as they ascended upward. The normally cautious climb was now an irrelevant obstacle in their race to save lives and reclaim peace. Sanjay threw himself against the aging door that led to the light. He groaned in despair as it refused to open. Erisa glanced at Sanjay, with wild determination in her eyes. We need to put out the light, Sanjay. If the ship passes the cliff it will be destroyed. Failing the deep-rooted fear that covered his every action, Sanjay handed her the oar. It was the one tool he had held tightly with a passion unknowable until moments ago, and now he entrusted it to her. He was the guardian of the light with the might of the living courage of the love he had come toe-to-toe with. After they broke through the door, he had instructed her to shatter the glass casing that housed the sacred flame. It was taking over his life's dedication, but protecting the ghost of a future with Christina. There was no recovery from such a break, and as the light of hope faded into darkness, the walls of the lighthouse shook. The glow which once guided ships to the port drew back. It broke into the realms of myth and memory. It was at the moment that the townsfolk were released from their sacred burden. The girls and Sanjay now gazed into the nothingness they had given life to. Time still staggered on. They were once more capable of fading as the stars, uncontrolled by the procedure of courage or sacrifice. These choices were their spiritual purpose. It was the loud noise that developed a fever of actions and decisions that swept through the people of Clearwater. The enchantment of the Sirens was reduced to but an echo still rattled around inside their skulls. This was a bittersweet and lingering moment. The Black Pearl, its path no longer maintained by an invisible longing. It fell yet was not consumed. The wind whispered between its weak sails. Tides retreated and flowed beneath its still proud body. It was not the sign of doom as the prophecy had foretold, but a testament to a town's choices of love and courage over fear. Their hope had been unleashed from acceptance. In the cold light of that first dawn after the confusion, the townsfolk held on to the sisters' courage as they had awoken from both enchantment and the ignorance that kept them tied within the trance. They were ready for a future free from the ghosts of prophecy. In the effects of the fateful night in Clearwater, the Black Pearl remained tied to the bay. A mysterious keepsake from a time the townsfolk were not sure whether to recall as myth or truth. The boat had become a memorial to courage and sacrifices that had seen it do without. It's evidence of the unbeatable spirit of a group of people tied together by trials unnamed. The sea faded what had once sheltered the dreams and fears of an entire township. It now held a silence that spoke of an uprising that's been won but not forgotten. Lina and Erisa were witnesses to the slow common change their home faced. No longer were they basic interests. They were no longer the expression of an abstract fear. The town considered their beauty with new eyes. An appreciation tinted with the feeling of gratitude. Even so, something necessary was lost to the sisters as they saw the way the townsfolk moved around them at the market and the harbor. Unconsciously securing themselves at a safe rational distance. They had saved Clearwater but at a great cost. The intimacy they once knew had fallen into the canyon of myth and realized fears. With winter's first mist, whispers of the Sirens and the curse became stories meant to put children to sleep rather than captivating truths. The fire-bright light that was once shared stood no more. Its guardians identical with heroism decreased to the ordinary attempts of daily life. Yet, on the hearts of a select few who had been witness to the shattering of power, the tale of Clearwater's courage gone through. It became more powerful than any Siren's melody. Lina and Erisa moved through their days with a slow-spirited air, silently longing for the closeness they had felt before. They were grateful for each other's faithfulness in a world that seemed to celebrate distance more than connection. One moonless night, Lina walked along the shore thinking about the cycle of life and legend. She was startled by a voice that sliced through the darkness. That voice was filled with more genuine warmth than she had heard in a long while. Lina called a shadowed figure that took shape in the night. May I join you? She froze when she saw that it was Sanjay. Without waiting for her agreement, the lighthouse keeper closed the physical and extended distance that had separated them. It was a bridge built of like-mindedness and the shared history of their town's most shared moment. I used to watch you from the lighthouse, he admitted. His voice is breathless with the relief of finally speaking against the quiet tide. Your presence was always so realistic, yet always tied by the knowledge that something grand and sorrowful lay within it. She listened as the roar of the rhythm of the waves to his words. He spoke of his love, Christina, and the dreams they had cherished. This had faded with his act of putting the light out. Yet, his story was not one of hopelessness. It was a journey of love that unfolded even in the darkest of times. A surprising fact that echoed with Lerena's heart while sparking emotions she had long believed drowned by the sorrow of their separation from the community. I grieved the discontinuing of the light as well. It felt like cutting off a part of me, Lena admitted as she shared the deepness of her inner struggle with another for the first time. It was a science spell, built not by choice but by the hands of time. Their methods differed, the same as their reasons, yet their dark but common ground felt worthy of attention. It was as if a bridge had not only appeared but met both ends of the shore. As dawn painted the curve of the sky in unsteady colors of life, Lena and Sanjay walked back to town side by side. The weight of their shared secrets no longer theirs to carry alone. Arisa, meanwhile, found herself adjusted to a different kind of life as she started to write about the events of the past summer. The words flowed from her with life and echoing that she had never felt in all the tales she had written. The rhythm of her pen upon paper spoke of the shared history that tied her not only to the people of Clearwater. It was to her sister and the mysterious twist of fate. Each section was a tender offering. A song to heal not only the divided but also the scars of the past. Her thoughts twisted with words to create a painting of truth and obligation to the power of storytelling. In Arisa's tale, The Firekeeper's Cry, she wrote at the lighthouse's silent watch. It reanalyzed the legacy of the Black Pearl that was no longer adrift to indulge the whims of ancient prophecy, and in the tale of Cloak of Rebirth, she put on record the stories shared during the long nights when the winds whispered a language not of desperation but of hope. She wrote of the town's change, the trials that hinted at being alive with seas of life held within a single drop. It wasn't long before her records drew the attention of Amara, the town librarian. She was a respected figure, known for her honorable age and the wealth of knowledge that covered her like a protective cloak. "My dear, you craft your truths as skillfully as the ancient Greek storytellers." Her eyes twinkled with approval towards Arisa, who needed no higher power. "Beware, for tales like yours have the power to change the world. The storytellers are the guardians of such tales. They are destined to be the architects of new mythologies." With each story turning, Arisa felt herself also turning. Her perception of her legacy chiseling away from the doom and destined sacrifice to hold fulfillment in the tempting possibility of authorship larger than any curse. The reading room of the library became a quiet place. It became the very space where the light of old was laid to rest, now a retreat of excited spirits. It was with each turning page this community learned to judge with a spirited heart. As for Lirina, her walks with Sanjay grew longer. The lighthouse keeper's once lonely watch is now shared in good form. The story that was once the tale of how Clearwater nearly lost its two most precious treasures became the epic tale that celebrated the town's release. Even in her sister's recounting of history, Lina found the threads on her story twisting together. As the sisters found comforts in their changed lives, the townsfolk slowly began to relight the fires of their shared spirits. Festivals were celebrated with newfound passion. The absence of the once wide-ranging science song now replaced with a shared melody of strength and gratitude. The historical objects of the legend that nearly consumed them became symbols of the past. They were respected less for their curse and more for the strength they encouraged. The Black Pearl, too weak to sail, was changed into a museum. A proud reminder of the courage of a modest town that stood against a fate not chosen. On one particularly lively day, Lina was approached by a spirited pair. Two travelers were unaware of the town's legacy. "Is it true the Scions of Clearwater once held this town within their song?" one of them asked. Lina smiled, her voice steady as she debunked the myth while elevating the truth. The Scions were never the ones in control. It was the people of Clearwater who unknowingly gave them the stage for their tragedy. Her words were met with curiosity and amusement by those who overheard. It was a gentle reminder of the weakness of legends and the strength of reality. Arisa, meanwhile, managed unrehearsed writings on her quickly growing work to charm audiences in the newly strengthened library. The community that once flinched away from the sisters now found itself drawn to them. The quiet hold of understanding slowly replaced the sly whispers of fear. Each evening, as the two crouched by a peaceful fire, the people of the beloved Clearwater gathered around. Their faces aglow with an eagerness for connection once lost but was now renewed by a fire brightly shining in the absence of a distant lighthouse. Together, they tangled new tales of love, courage, and persistence. They were stories that would not only celebrate Clearwater's history but led the way for its shared future. Yet, as the townsfolk celebrated in their newfound togetherness, a selective few continued to pay close attention to the sea's ever-shifting moods. It was during one such watchful morning that a fisherman whose name was Will spotted an irregularly shiny object over the kelpbacks. Will and his crew were under the watchful gaze of Lina and Arisa. The sisters cast their nets skillfully. Their movements were as harmonized as their breaths. As they caught the shining object, they began to pull it up in their net to investigate it. They then realized that they had brought up a chest lined in rusted iron. The craftsmanship was unmistakably ancient. When they pried it open, the air harmonized with a haunting melody, one that could neither be held nor hidden. The townsfolk flooded the dark in fear and regret clashing within their hearts as they looked at the items inside the chest's heart. Inside lay a collection of seashells. The people studied the shells and they announced in whispers of the faithful night. The shells seemed to hum with a note of the legendary Siren song. Fear covered Clearwater once again. It was like the first fog of a coming storm. The Siren song, a legacy supposedly shattered by the settling of that fateful night. It had resurfaced to challenge the reconstruction of the peace. Lena felt her settled soul become unsteady for the first time since they broke the enchantment. The shells in Will's possession had a captivating echo of past mistakes and defeated fears that clawed at her heart. As stress rapidly increased, the townsfolk found themselves at a dead end. Should they preserve the artifacts, forever taking time out from their fears and loneliness, or should they face them again, knowing that they had won once before? The decision was self-assured on the edge of the unknown. It was the same cliff Eris's stories had drawn the townsfolk to gaze upon. Was she to rewrite their tale or be written by it once more? It was during a heated gathering beneath the same skies that had witnessed their victory in horror that Sanjay rose to his feet and spoke. Terrifying or not, these shells stand witness not to a curse. Instead, they're witness to an unequal victory. We defeated not just monsters, but our blindness. His voice was uncolored by fear or indecision. Perhaps it is time we honor our past by not letting it give orders to our future. We should be fixing our legacy. Eris stood in agreement, her voice flowed with a passion that originated from her love of storytelling and the need to see truth light. The past cannot be erased, nor should it be buried out of sight for fear that it may rise again. Rather, it should be a stepping stone to the future. A signal by which we measure our growth. The remains of the dark legacy were put to rest with a quiet ceremony of sea. Under the watchful gaze of an entire town, the artifacts that once promised doom were delivered to the bottom of the sea. The chest sank on. The rhythmic prayers and songs of the people hovering over the waves. It was carried by the same currents that decorated the slightly bruised black pearl. The decision to let go was a common one as the chest and shells were now tucked away in folklore. A gesture of togetherness that spoke to the shared strength found in overcoming and outgrowing fear. Something extremely worthy of attention shifted within the hearts of Clearwater's people. The last tremble of the spell that had once twisted itself around Clearwater had faded into silence. In the days that followed the cease's serious function, the everyday structure of life in Clearwater began to develop. Its painted light twisted ever so delicately. New stories and tales rose about the day the town cast aside the last remnants of its curse. Clearwater delivered in its ability to choose its future. The festivals grew with a passion that blended merriment with a deep understanding of shared history. The laughter and joy tinted with a saddening wisdom of what could have been. For the sisters, Lina and Erisa, life accepted a peacefulness filled with the sweet strength of their shared togetherness. The turn of the seasons carried with it a quiet acknowledgement of the roles they had played. Not just in the town's story, but in finding their place among the telling of the world's tales. Lina's walks with Sanjay and Erisa's readings joined the sisters' position as essential partakers in Clearwater's rebirth. The delicate beauty no longer cast shadows in the minds of their neighbors but lighting the shared spaces, inviting connection and understanding. In their change from symbols of a curse to the twisting of a town's newfound legacy, they found a sense of fulfillment that has been far better than a Saro's legend. Among the sea assaulted with the promise of success rather than the threat of destruction, Clearwater's age-old traditions found a fresh liveliness. Eris's stories of the legend stood not just as a witness to survival but as a guide for the future. Each word is written with the town's promise to remember. They must not be prisoners of the past but as keepers of their truths. The storytellers had spoken to a crowd eager to believe in the determination of the human spirit. Telling of the festival of rebirth, Will the fisherman wrote a poem to their collective spirits. A tale that reminded himself and the town of their ability to craft their destinies. Clearwater was once more a place where legend walked hand in hand with truth. Each person respecting the other's place in the dance of time. In the quiet hours between half-light and the coming of night, Clearwater's history became a story told and retold in the arms of those they loved. Lina and Eris looked to the horizon with peaceful hearts. The sisters knew that the tale of the Sirens would continue. It whispered in the breaths between laughter and the songs that comforted them. It would develop, shaped by the hands of each new teller. It would be changed by the universal light cast by those who had lived through the most realistic of changes. Eventually, Clearwater found its way into hearts and minds as a moral story noted for its curse. The once-and-never residents came to politely understand that it was in the honoring of the Siren song that they were truly free to guide their destinies. It was within the flexibility of the human spirit. The polite friendship was encouraged in a struggle against unseen enemies. A friendship that shined with the lasting brightness of the town's true treasures of each other. The year turned full circle, and the town of Clearwater prepared for its most magnificent festival yet. It was the festival of rebirth. It was a symbolic gathering that not only the progress of time, but also that town's unbreakable spirit. It brought its natural selection from the dangers of their predictions to the sunrise of their own chosen destiny. Everywhere they turned, there were reminders of the tests they had all gone through. The Black Pearl standing guard over the gentle bay. The lighthouse casting its beams not as a warning, but as a light of togetherness. The children's laughter, free and not weighed down by the shackles of legend. Lina and Arisa moved through the celebration with a renewed lightness. Their beauty is no longer a sign of defeat, but a reminder of the success over the indescribable. The Promise Walk, as it would come to be known, was led by the two sisters. It was a parade through the town, of costumed children, priced wreaths, and the flowing autumn leaves. Their laughter cut around the representation of the once feared Siren's enchantment. Not in attractiveness, but in acknowledgement of a shared past and a hold on the future. It was during the closing ceremony, as the sun drew lower and the fair light painted the faces of Clearwater in a flickering dance that the towns harmonized. Voices grew in a song. Not voices of the sirens, but of the people of Clearwater itself. The song was new, brought from the combining of myth and history with the spirit of overcoming. People of all ages joined in. They broke the spell that once threatened to divide their hearts. For now, they sang of their choosing, a song of togetherness and the tales that tied them together as one. As the evening deepened into shadow and the final notes of the festival music faded into the peaceful night, Arisa and Sanjay found themselves by the lighthouse. It's a place now so much more than the keeper of a flame that was once put out. Sanjay had long since joined the quiet walk back to his home, but Arisa stayed. The porch where the chest had rested during the recovered ceremony was now washed in the loneliness of a single memory. She placed a single seashell that she retrieved from the bottom of the sea where the chest now lay resting beside the door. Now a guardian spirit of the home that watched over Clearwater with gentle, quiet care. She decided to let go, and she realized while gazing at the lighthouse in the last lingering moments of sunset. This was a spell that did not control the destinies they carved with each day's labor. Lina, too, had found herself standing before an object imbued with the original fear of the statuesque Black Pearl. It was no longer a symbol of impending doom. The ship had taken on a new meaning that evening, a sentinel of the town's ability to choose a different path. The festival of renewal lingered in the collective consciousness of Clearwater for weeks afterward. The legends of the Sirens and their role in Clearwater's birthright had existed as undercurrents in all the days of Arisa and Lina's lives. They understood their part in the chronicle of the town's metamorphosis. Clearwater had emerged not unscathed, but reborn. It was not that of trepidation. The lighthouse, once a fortress of fear, stood as the silent sentinel of the town. Even in the deep the shells that were sequestered in folklore hummed a silent tune of remembrance, not of control. They became the humble legacy of a misspent trust in the power of storytelling. They whispered the Siren's song lost to the freedom of the embrace. The survivors of the Siren's spell confronted a future navigated more by their hearts than by relics of the past.